I've watched over 1,000 golf tutorials online now, and there's one problem I see in every video, and that's it gets way too technical. They say you have to shallow this, you have to hold it like this, you have to move your hips like this, but how do we really understand that? Well, today I'm going to teach you how I learned to strike my irons through a more feel approach and how you can use a feel approach to find your own swing as well. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and watch until the end of this video. The first thing you have to know about learning any skill is that you have to learn it in your way. For example, I used to be a professional badminton player. We have one of the top badminton channels on YouTube as well. And I know that when I teach my students in other sports as well, you can't tell them to do it a certain way because every body is different and every way of thinking is also different. So how I like to learn very quickly is I like to understand the fundamentals of how the sport works, the physics works, and how we can properly contact the ball, and then I can move my body in my own way to find that movement. By doing it this way, we don't have to force our body to shallow in certain ways or twist our hips in certain ways that we are just unable to do. So the first thing we need to talk about before we even going into striking the ball is our proper setup position, which is grip and stance. Now there's tons of YouTube videos out there telling you the proper positioning, the distance, all of that in direct detail, but I'm going to tell you in a way that feels the most natural to you and you can find as well. First is our grip. You know the different types of grips. If you don't, you can search it out there, but we're using our standard interlock grip. Now, one thing that a lot of people are curious about, and I was curious about when I was learning golf, is how do we properly position our hands on the grip? Some people say we need a stronger grip, more neutral grip, our right hand, where does it go? And I think you don't need to overcomplicate how you position your hands on the grip. Instead, it's easier to understand what is our club head really doing when we're striking the ball. So there's multiple faces that our club head can strike. It can either face outwards, straight, or inwards. Now, how does our grip affect our club face? Well, obviously, if our grip is turned more to the inside here, like this, then our whole club face is gonna face outwards. If it's more turned to the left side, like this, then our whole club face is gonna face inwards. So what you need to do to find your proper grip position is think, am I striking more to the left or more to the right? And understanding how that works, then you can adjust so that you can strike your ball straighter every time. In terms of stance, I know there's a lot of ways to get in set position. A lot of people say you hold it straight forward like this and all you have to do is just bend down 45 degrees. Well, I think all this right, and overall, no matter what, it's gonna look like a 45 degrees. I think the most important thing to understand here is that no matter what, you have to be comfortable, because if you want any shot to be good, it has to be effortless. And what I mean by effortless is not that you're not using any power, is that you're using your power correctly so you can transition it throughout your body. So how do we achieve an effortless swing? Well, one way we can imagine is we are throwing a ball, because the golf swing is very similar to throwing an underhand ball, where we have to come up, we have to rotate our body, lead with our elbow, and then throw and follow through. And same with the club, we're gonna be coming up, leading with our lower body, lead with the elbow, and swing through. So one exercise that we can do is grab some golf balls, and all you have to do is practice throwing your golf balls against the screen. When you're doing this, you want to focus on accelerating your throws and smooth transitions and a straight release. So after you've thrown golf balls a couple of times, you know what your most comfortable stance is. It's not too big, it's not too little. You know how you need to stand in order to throw this ball. Now, all we need to imagine is we're still gonna throw the ball, but instead of starting from an upright position, we're gonna be looking down at our ball for our club face. So if we wanted to start in this position and throw the ball, how would you do it? Well, just throw the ball and you'll find your natural position. So imagine I'm in my club setup here. I'm gonna turn and then throw the ball. So I know this is my most comfortable position. And once you've found that, imagine if you have to throw the ball 1,000 times. All you have to do is take your club and come back to that position that you feel most comfortable with if you were to swing the club 1,000 times. Now that we know how to get into our proper grip and setup positions, it's time to learn how to start hitting the ball. Yes, this ball. Now, I see a lot of people at the driving range hitting it very awkwardly. Some of the common mistakes include straight, stiff arms, and they're swinging with their whole body like that. Another common mistake I see is arms that are too loose, and they're swinging like they're playing Flappy Birds. So in order to strike this ball properly, we have to break down the swing into 3 parts. Contact, half swing, and then full swing to generate more power. Now, let's talk about contact and how contact of the ball really works here. So this is the ball, quite straightforward thing. Now, how does this club work to contact the ball? We have to think of it as a trebuchet. If you don't know what a trebuchet is, it's that weapon in Flappy Bird, that medieval cannon looking thing. It launches first, it has a sling, it launches out, and then the sling flings everything forward. Now, it's very similar to how you strike the golf ball here. You have to imagine your golf club is the slingshot part of the trebuchet. So it's kind of like a pendulum. And when you're striking your ball, it's actually your golf club being a pendulum to the ball. So if you were super stiff and you were to keep this straight, then you would be going like this and you would not be generating the most power. And if you're super loose, you'd be flopping around and not generating power as well. The most ideal way to contact the ball is for it to come here, accelerate as a pendulum, hit the ball, and then finish as a pendulum. So how do we do that? Without getting too technical, one drill that I love to do is just my pendulum hit swing drill. And what we're gonna do is putting our ball down here, get into our setup position. We're not gonna think of any backswing or anything coming up like that. We're just gonna hit only with here, imagining our club is a pendulum. Now, we're gonna ignore standard takeaways right now because takeaways, you usually have to keep straight. And then when you come down here, it means your body is also gonna be straight, which doesn't give you the feeling of hitting the shot. So what I want you to do here is imagine your golf is a pendulum, your golf club. And what we're gonna do is just hit the golf ball, just straight and easy like that. Don't overthink it. And just gonna be like a pendulum. I'll show you one more time in this more forward angle. Now, swinging with just this pendulum feeling, you can already hit a pretty decent shot. And I'm sure as a lot of beginners like you, if you're not able to hit the shot properly, just this pendulum swing is gonna hit a lot farther than you're normally hitting, like this. So you see, I'm only using 10% of my power only with this pendulum swing, but because I have a good contact, I'm able to hit it 84 yards right now using only this. And if I wanted to accelerate a little bit more, I could probably get it closer to 100 using only my pendulum swing. There's 3 ways. One is you can hit it thick, which is you hit the ground too early and then you hit the ball. One is you hit it thin, where you hit it the top of the ball. And next is to hit it perfectly, which is to hit the ball first and then the ground. So when you're practicing your pendulum swing, you have to make sure you're getting your contact down. If your contact is too far behind the ball, that means something must have shifted in your body when you're doing this pendulum. You might have started leaning back, so your contact is on the ground. When you're hitting the ball too top, that means you might have accidentally leaned forward or you might have leaned over. So when you're doing the pendulum swing, you have to make sure everything is staying still, nothing is moving except for your club doing the pendulum. Now, no matter what, as we move on, that is gonna be the most important part of the swing. First, our grip and stance, which is being comfortable. Second is our pendulum. Why is that the most important? Because no matter where we are, whether we come halfway or full way, as we come back down, we always have to enter this pendulum to hit the ball. If we don't do this pendulum, then our swing is gone. So this is the most basic, and as we're moving forward, if you feel you're messing up, then always come back to just practicing this pendulum swing first before we move on to our bigger swings. So now that we know how to contact the ball, how do we increase our backswing so that it can look more like a proper swing? Well, I would say the next step is to go into our half swing before we go into our full swing. And what does our half swing look like? Well, we know that the pendulum is supposed to hit like here. What we want to do with our half swing is first, right now we're only using our hands and our wrist. Our backswing, what it's going to do is start incorporating our arms. Now, how you want to imagine your arms is kind of like you are chopping wood. What this motion is going to do for you is give you much more acceleration before you go into your pendulum. So this is where the trebuchet really comes in from Flappy Bird's the weapon, because you'll see that this is the first part of the trebuchet. We launch it down and then it releases our pendulum to hit the ball. So launch it down and releasing our pendulum. So how do we do this? Well, to get into our trebuchet, our 90 degree, what we want to do is come up into around a 90-degree swing. What we're going to do from here is we're just going to drop our arms straight, and when you drop it down, it should allow you to get into the position where you can release your hands to do that original contact we were thinking of. So just think of a 90-degree angle. We're going 90, drop it down, and then pendulum. 90, drop it down, and then pendulum. When you're doing this, there are a few things you need to be careful of. One is you might not be separating it clearly enough. You might not be dropping and then pendulum. You might be doing it a little bit at the same time. You might be doing drop pendulum at the same time, or you might be doing drop too late and then pendulum, which is all gonna mess up your swing. So remember where our pendulum is? Our pendulum is here, our first 90 degrees. And then our arms are our next 90 degrees, dropping it here and then finishing the swing. I'll show you one more time from the back here. So getting into our ready stance, we're gonna know our pendulum and get it into this half swing before we drop and go back into our pendulum, just like this. So you see with this swing, I'm only using around 40 to 50% power, and we are already hitting it 140 yards. Now, another thing to add to this once you've got the feeling of bringing it down and striking the ball is how do we add more speed into this? Because a lot of the problems you guys have is when you're adding more speed, you start adding too much everything and start breaking your sequence. So what we want to think about, and this is going to be super important before we move on to the third step, is that when we're coming up, how we want to add speed in this motion is we want to chop this down faster before we enter our pendulum. So chopping, you can think of like if you were chopping an axe, just like this. But instead, we're gonna be bringing it to our side and chopping it in this motion. So if I were to face you in the front, it's gonna be chopping my axe, bring it to the side, and we're chopping it in this motion. So this is gonna have to accelerate faster before we bring all that power we just generated into our pendulum and contact our ball. Let me show you one time from the back what it looks like. Pendulum, come up halfway, and we're accelerating down with our chop before we enter our pendulum. So you see there we hit 169 yards with our 8 iron using around 70% power, and I'm gonna show you one more time from this angle. Accelerating down. I would say in our swing, these first two steps are the most important, this pendulum and the backswing. You see, with my pendulum and backswing, I'm already hitting 160 yards with my 8 iron, and that's already more than you need for playing golf. Now, if you wanted to generate more power, you can, and all you have to do is remember our pendulum, step 1, step 2 into our half backswing, and step 3 is just turning a little bit more so that you can fully rotate your body as you come down. But as you come down, you still have to remember your steps 1 and 2. You fully open, come down into our 2, chop, and then into our pendulum. That was 171 yards for me. For me, a little bit messy because I start changing my body position. So you see my shot start to lose control a little bit. So find where your limit is to stay in control, and you can start adding a little bit more each time. So now that you've learned to hit the ball, there's only 3 more things that you need to keep in mind when hitting the ball and how it's affecting the trajectory of your ball. One is at the beginning, which way is the ball going? Is it going straight, is it going right, or going left? And which way your ball goes out is decided by your club face. So on contact, if your club face is pointing straight, it's going to go straight. If it's pointing right, it's going to go right. And if it's pointing left, it's going to go left. Last, we have to know which way is our ball curving. Is it curving to the right, curving to the left, or is it going pretty straight? And how this is determined is by our club swing path trajectory. Now, when we're swinging from an outside in, meaning the club is coming from outside to inside, you'll see that it's going to create a spin on the ball because you're coming in this way and the ball is going to go to your right. If you're swinging from an inside out club path, which is going this way to this way, you'll see that your covering the ball and creating a spin this way so the ball is going to curve to the left. So if you want your ball to go straight, you have to adjust. If it's going right, then move in a little bit. If it's going left, then move in a little bit as well. So at the end, to hit a straight ball shot, you're going to need a straight club face, and you're going to need to come down with a straight club trajectory so that you can contact and hit it through perfectly every time. If you guys enjoy this video using a more feel approach to learn how to properly play golf and learn how to play golf with your own swing, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know down below what we can teach you next time.